So, welcome to Rob's Camino. Now, one of the things that people often worry about is how much does it cost to walk the Camino? Particularly if it's your first Camino, it can be a little bit hard to judge what kind of budget you need. There are so many costs involved, and how much money do you need to save up? How much money do you need to take with you? So I thought the easiest way to do this would be actually to share with you my budget planner. And you can actually download that as well. I'll show you how to do that at the end of the video. So budgeting, that's the topic for this week. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to actually talk you through a spreadsheet that I put together. I mean, what do you do when you can't walk Caminos? You plan Caminos. And maybe this spreadsheet will help you work out your own budget. So I'm going to be talking to you here on the camera. I've got it also over here on my computer, and we're going to walk through this little budget planner, and I'll show you where you can get it. Actually, at the end of the video, you can download it. Okay then, so the Camino budget estimate. I've put this together, so I kind of had my own budget, but I've put this together so that anybody can use it, and I'll step you through the different things that you can work out for your budget. One thing to point out is that all of these yellow fields, those are the ones that you change. Everything else in white, don't touch them. Those are actual calculations for you. So all you need to do is to change the cells, the numbers in the yellow cells. I'll also point out a couple of notes. So I've only included the on-Camino costs. So I haven't included the cost of getting there and getting home, because obviously that depends on where you're coming from and which Camino you're going to. And this version works for 1 or 2 people, on the basis that you would be sharing a room if you're using private accommodation. So I haven't put one together that would work for groups, for example. Okay, so just going to pop my seat down because I noticed I'm not in shot. Okay, so let's have a look at the spreadsheet, and I'll talk you through it. So right at the top, we put in which Camino we're going to walk. So let's, for this example, put in the Frances. How many people are going to be walking it? So it's 1, it's going to be me. And the estimated Camino days. So how many days will we expect to actually be on the Camino? In this example, I walk the Camino Frances from Saint-Jean to Santiago in about 40 days generally. And then I've called this my exchange rate to the euro. So if you're working in US dollars or some other currency other than the euro, you need to put in the exchange rate there. So just remember, it can be one of 2 ways, like your currency into euros and euros into your currency. Just make sure you get that the right way around. So I'm in Australia, I'm converting this to Australia dollars. Okay, then in this next box, we've got what I've called unit costs. So these are the costs of the individual items. And yes, I'm a management consultant, so I'm used to putting cost models together. So in the unit costs, we're putting down the individual costs for each item. So here I've got hotels or casa rurals. So on average, so a casa rural, as you probably know, is like a bed and breakfast. So if I'm going to be staying in some casa rurals and some hotels, some casa rurals might be about 25 euros, hotels could be 40 or 50, so I'm kind of working out an average there. But you might say, oh well, I'm going to stay in casa rurals and I'll hope to get those at, let's say, an average of 28 euros a night. So you can see as I'm changing things, all of the totals are changing. And then if you're going to be staying in albergos, what's the cost per night for that? So I have to confess, I'm not really an albergo stayer. When I do stay in albergos, I tend to stay in private rooms. This is probably more the cost of a private albergue, 12 euros. So whatever cost you think that's likely to be. So Donativos are going to be a lot cheaper. Let's put in 8 euros. We've then got some dinner options. So are you likely to want to eat a la carte dinners? If you're like me, it's a bit of a food hike. So if you're going to be having a la carte dinners, I find they take a nice change now and again. They might be about 20 euros. If you're going to have the pilgrim menu, the menu peregrino, very often they're 10, 11, 12 euros. So I put that in. There's another option for lunches, which is the Menu del Dia. So I talk about all of this on other videos, but if you want to have a really nice lunch, in Spain they have a thing called the Menu del Dia. So it's a set lunch, a bit like a pilgrim meal, but just for a couple of euros more, it's a much better quality, really yummy. So maybe you're going to have some of those at 12 euros. I've then got another eating option, and that's, I've called it a simple lunch or a DIY lunch. So you might be buying a bocadillo, a roll and some cheese and things like that. You might be buying a bit of tortilla. So that's a cheaper lunch option, maybe at 3 euros. I've put in a unit cost for breakfasts. Generally for me, a coffee and something might be 3 euros. I do buy water along the way. I try not to. But, and I fill up my water bottles, but occasionally I'm buying water. If you're just going to fill up, from taps and things, well, that's no cost. We'll put that 0. I've then got a miscellaneous cost. So these are all sort of daily costs, obviously. They're unit costs. Toiletries, meds, physio. I generally need to visit a physio a couple of times during a Camino because I have really bad legs. So that might cost me 20 euros a time. Maybe you're picking up hygiene products or medications. So whatever the number is for you, put that in. It might not be much at all. It might be some, painkillers or anti-inflammatories every few days. We'll put in €1. I put in churches. So I tend to visit churches every day that I'm walking, and I'll put €1 in the tin and light a candle and things like that. So, but if you're not that kind of thing, you can take that out, 0. And then I've got something for miscellaneous costs. So I go through a lot of data because I shoot lots of video, and I'm always a bit paranoid about losing it. So I'm uploading video as I go. So for me, one of those miscellaneous costs is my SIM card and data. If you're not, needing a lot of data and things like that, maybe you want a SIM card. Maybe there's other miscellaneous costs. Might just be €1 for you per day. Okay, now we come across to the interesting bit. So those are all of our unit costs. Now, on your Camino budget, you can determine what kind of accommodation and meal options you're going to use. So we have an option here which says albergue accommodation, what percentage? So if you're going to stay 100% in albergues, we put 100. And it's going to pick up that €8 per night cost. If, you might stay in a Casa Rural a couple of nights or something like that, just for a break, well, maybe it's going to be 90%. Then we've got, so what it's doing, the calculation I should say, it's assuming that if you're selecting 90% accommodation in albergues, the other 10% is a Casa Rural or hotel, the other costs that we've got there. And if you've selected 2 people at the top, it will be doubling the albergue cost because you're paying per bed, and for the private accommodation it's a room cost, so it doesn't double that one. We've then got pilgrim dinners. So are you going to be having pilgrim dinners, or are you going to be having a la carte? So if we pick 100% pilgrim dinners, then we're going to be having €11 a night. You can see that work through. If we pick 50%, we're assuming then that we're going to be doing a la carte dinners, so it's going to go higher. So maybe we're going to do a pilgrim meal. Maybe that's going to be your main meal every day, and you're going to do 100% of that. In terms of the lunches, are you going to go for a simple lunch or a Menu del Dia? Maybe you're going to do a sort of DIY lunch, so that's €3. Maybe some couple of times you might have a Menu del Dia, so we'll go 90% on the simple lunches. And then we've got our set numbers here for the coffees and the water and the medications and so on. All it's doing there is taking the unit costs. So for example, with the coffees, it's €3 a day, and it's taking 40 days on Camino. And so it's coming up with the total number. And then right down the bottom, we've got a summary. So here's the total cost. And I've called it my and euro. So I haven't put a currency symbol in there because I don't know what currency you're using. So in my case, that's 1,914 Australian dollars is the total, which works out to 1,196 euros is my budget. This is just a check total. Based on 40 days, that's 48 euros a day, or 335 euros a week. So what I've done here is basically to capture all of the different options. So you can put in, how many people are walking, how long you're walking for, put in your exchange rate. And it's not going to be perfect, but it will give you a pretty good idea of how much you're likely to spend. I would urge you, if you haven't walked a Camino, let's just go through and we'll do an option which is kind of a cheaper option. So we've got our albergues at 8. Let's do 100% albergue accommodation. Pilgrim dinners. I just noticed I haven't put in a DIY dinner because obviously that's an option. So you could just delete the dinners altogether. The simple lunches, DIY lunches, will do that 100%. That's probably about as low as you can go, I think. So 43 euros a day. The way that you could cut that would be no pilgrim dinners and doing DIY dinners, 3 or 4 euros. So you could take another, probably another 300 euros off that. So you can play around with it. But hopefully you'll find it useful. It just gives you a very rough budget idea. And so, for example, I'm probably hoping to walk the VDLP next time. So the Via de la Plata, and I'm going to take about 55 days, I think, to walk that. I'll walk really slow. And I'll probably do albergues 80% of the time. Let's say I'll stick with pilgrim dinners. I might do DIY lunches 75% of the time. So that's telling me I'm going to need about 53 euros a day on the VDLP. So look, you could play around with that and play with the unit costs and get it a lot cheaper, but there you go. Hopefully that will help you with your Camino budget planning. I'll put a link down below the video because on my blog there's a download link where you can actually go and download this spreadsheet. So you can download it onto your computer and have a play around with it. If you think it needs improvement, let me know and I'll have a play with it and see if we can improve on the functionality of it. As I mentioned, one thing I've noticed is that I should have a DIY dinner option. But there we go. Enjoy it. If you have any questions, do comment down below. Any questions about this, any other sort of general Camino questions. If you enjoy this channel, please do consider subscribing and like and share and all those sorts of things, because on a YouTube channel you really only know what topics people like if they're liking them and commenting on them. So the topics that get more likes and comments, obviously I can do more around those sorts of topics. So thank you for watching. Don't forget, I'll put a link down below where you can download the budget planner and look forward to your feedback. Bye for now.